Hello, I'm Mantastic'c and Fantastic, and today I want to talk about the Spring Fest Godfest exclusives that are currently given out to players who own the Pad Pass to clear the 20th of the month dungeon. So if you do own the Pad Pass and you clear the 20th of the month dungeon, not only will you get the Spring Fest event medal to monster exchange for Rex, Sara, or Luna, you will also be given their respective evolution gems to make one of their colored evolutions. So it's a great time to get the Pad Pass if you don't have it, but at the same time, even if you don't have the Pad Pass, maybe you have these lying around, and you can also acquire their gems via 5 huge gems of their respective colors. So for instance, to get the Rex gem for his blue evolution, you have to monster exchange 5 huge water gems. This is obviously going to be quite a sizable resource that you need to amass, but at the same time, if you can't clear their respective dungeons, it's a great way to actually get the drop as a guarantee. But with that being said, I want to focus on players who have a Spring Fest event medal to help you maybe guide your way into a more favorable choice overall. But before I go any further, I want to stress the fact that the Spring Fest event medal does never go bad. That means you can hold on to it, you can look at it, just don't sell it, and you can monster exchange for Rex, Sara, or Luna at any point in time. It's not going to go away. So if you don't have a good use for them right now, don't exchange. My rationale or logic for monster exchanging is that if I do not gain immediate value out of the card right away, I'm questioning why I'm exchanging for it, because you never know. In the future, something may come about. Like, let's say you don't have Royal Oak, Seawolf, or Safi as leaders. Say you have none of those 3. Well, you might get one of those 3 in the future, and then suddenly these respective cards are going to become highly desirable subs, and it may be worth waiting on just for that purpose. But with that being said, I want to take a little bit of a deeper look at each of their respective evolutions to give you an idea of where their strengths or their pros lie. So, for Rex, his blue form is going to be one of the most universally helpful cards out there. They have a wonderful spread of awakenings. They have 4 skill boosts. They also have 2 seconds of movement time, which is nice. Like, who doesn't like more movement time? They have a 10 combo and a single enhanced water and a single enhanced light. I'm not a big fan of mixing 2 colors because we don't really take advantage of it fully, but it is what it is. It is okay. In terms of the Super Awakenings, you can get either a 10 combo or a Super Jammer or Super Blind. This is great flexibility because if you take the 10 combo, you can easily double cap. If you take the Blind and Jammer, you can stick on like another 6 latent slot, say like Leader Swap Resist or something, just to give him like 1.5 times damage cap. Not going to hit double damage cap that reliably without the 10 combo Super Awakening, but gaining a Super Resist is huge. And for myself personally, I am leaning more towards Super Blind Resist, and the reason for that is because his active skill can convert hazards. And we look at this active skill, it's a 2-turn cooldown, which is great because you can inherit something over top of it. And remember, they have 8 latent slots, so you get a 6 slot latent plus 2 SDRs most likely, or whatever you need to have. So with a 2 base cooldown, you're able to inherit something like meaningful on top. It could be delay, haste, damage absorption, whatever you need for the dungeon. It's quite easy to inherit on top of Rex, and that's a big strong point. And then his base active skill is quite amazing. You convert all hazards into water orbs. So foregoing hazard resist is actually not too bad as long as Rex is on your team, because you'll convert them into more water orbs, and that means more damage, so much more happiness. In addition to that, you also get an RCV buff and a movement time buff. That's pretty amazing overall. Like, when you think about it, all the top leaders nowadays give an attack buff. So now with Rex and those leaders, which is Royal Oak or Natsuru in this case, you are going to have a wonderful time because you have an attack buff all the time, and every other turn you can give yourself an RCV or a movement time buff. Incredibly strong utility, and in fact, you could in theory use Rex on even some light-based teams if you needed watercolor coverage, because he does possibly do some damage with the sub-attribute, but the utility brought through skill boost, time extent, a bit of passive damage, and a super resist, along with a low base helpful cooldown, is meaningful. As a whole, Rex is definitely the most flexible. Naturally, they're a best fit on mono water teams, but at the same time, if you need that color coverage, maybe on a light team you can slot them in. I've seen Daytona teams utilize Rex because of the sheer amount of utility they actually bring, and their sub-attribute, just because Daytona's attack multiplier is sky high with their active skill, their sub-attribute actually ends up dealing respectable amounts of damage, which is pretty cool overall. Or if a water skyfall occurs, bam, more happiness. For his other evolutions, I'm not a big fan of the weapon assist. Like, the opportunity cost of not using their base form is way too high. And we didn't get the red gem, unfortunately, for the monster exchange options, but the red Rex is still a meaningful card. Incredibly similar to the blue form, but they get double 7 combo and 2 crosses. There's no truly great red dark leader out there who uses crosses, so their usability is definitely much lower. They share the same active skill, but Blue Rex is definitely the superior choice for like usability. They're just great where they are at this point in time on water teams. You definitely can use Rex on Seawolf teams as well, like Red Rex, but I feel like the blue one does give a bit more value overall, and especially if you, like, it all comes down to what other subs or options you have available, and that usually determines how useful a card is for yourself. For Luna, Luna is an amazing Seawolf sub. If you look at their awakenings, they have 5-7 combos, and they get a 6-7 combo because, you know, why not just absolutely murder everything in your path? I think that's a little excessive personally, so I'm much more inclined to either pursue the second double skill boost or a super poison resist. And if you do look at them closely, you'll notice that they actually have 8 awakenings, so it leads me to believe that in the future, she will receive a buff of some kind in some way, shape, and form just to have that 9th awakening. And whatever 9th awakening she's given, it's going to be meaningful. Just be aware of the fact that she does not have any VDP, so it can be a bit of a drawback because, you know, you're not going to actually have that VDP damage against void spawns. So unless you bring a void damage void or have other VDP solutions, Hera Luna will be a less ideal choice in that sense. But she's still an amazingly strong sub, don't get me wrong, because she has huge amounts of damage output. Easily will double damage cap in her main attribute. Her sub attribute's probably going to be dealing significant amounts of damage as well. So it's an exciting damage stick all around. And if we look at the active skill, it is still meaningful. It's a 14-turn cooldown, which is definitely a bit longer, which is definitely a little harder to work around with. But at the same time, it does provide a valuable effect. It gives you a 15% gravity, which is like, it's situationally helpful, but against extremely tanky spawns, it may actually be quite useful because you might end up taking away billions of health, and taking away 15% of something with, like, say 50 billion health is 7.5 billion damage. That's quite a bit. That might even, in fact, let you actually have a chance to overcome various nuances. Like, you might kill them 1 turn faster, which can be a big deal because now you don't take that risk of stalling for extra long periods of time. So that gravity could be situationally helpful, but the main value comes from the fact that you get a row of fire orbs, so more orb generation is nice, and 2 turns of 60% damage reduction. You need damage reduction in Shura 2, Shura 3, MD2. Damage reduction is a great thing to have, and having it on a sub who is meaningful is even better. So you can definitely utilize Luna at the beginning of the dungeon to utilize an inherit for, like, say, a delay or haste, and then just ride this damage reduction for the later floors because you need the damage reduction at the end. And if 2 turns of damage reduction, you're giving yourself extra leeway against, say, Gills or Hexazeon and Shura 2 and 3 respectively. You're able to actually potentially flub or miscount or something silly happens and you don't actually push them below half health on the first turn. You have that second turn as safety. It's a nice thing to have overall. Same idea can apply in MD2 against Green Millie. If you do encounter her, her hit while below 50% is big. If you mistime that in some way possible, you have that extra turn of shielding to keep yourself alive. It's a nice thing to have overall, in my opinion. And as a whole, they are a strong Seawolf sub, but just be mindful of the fact that they just don't bring that much other utility aside from huge damage and maybe a super resist. Like, she's good at what she does, but just be mindful of the fact that it's not as flexible or utility oriented compared to Rex. Come on, show me that blue Rex so you can just remember. Yeah, nowhere near as flexible utility based, but still incredibly strong. Remember, if you don't have Royal Oak, Rex is probably not going to be that helpful for you. If you have Seawolf and it's your best team, Hera Luna will be your choice. And then conversely, if you have Safi, Sara may be one of your stronger choices, and it all comes down to what you have in your monster box. So if we look at Sara, she has 6 VDPs. This is incredibly excessive. It's 244 times personal damage. Absolutely outrageously nutty. And even though she has a terribly low attack stat, it's actually okay. In fact, it works in your favor because she's going to be double damage capping with a VDP. No problem, like gargantuan amounts of damage. Even her sub-attribute, if you make a dark VDP, will do huge amounts as well. And that low attack stat means you're able to have better stats in other places. That means her health stat is actually quite large. That's a large health stat. And the RCV stat, that's a monstrously large RCV stat. So great stat distribution if you take into account the fact that her personal damage multipliers are through the absolute roof. But the problem is she offers basically nothing else from damage aside from that. Like, you could have 4 skill boosts or 2 skill boosts and a super poison resist. You have no movement time. You have no skill bind resist. It's going to be a little bit awkward to potentially fit them in on a given team in that sense because of lower utility. Make sure you have enough skill bind resist, but On the bright side, her active skill is meaningful. It gives you a 3-turn delay, so that's obviously going to be great on floor 1s or even later on if you can delay certain floors. And it's also going to give you a board unlock, and it also creates 9 light, dark, and hard orbs. So with the guaranteed unlock, you know you're going to have at least a VDP of dark and light and the ability to heal up at the same time. This can definitely make your life much happier overall because Sara is going to do gargantuan amounts of damage. Safi, who does have a dark side attribute, will also deal massive amounts of damage. So it's a great like burst kill style active skill that does have an unlock, and the delay is meaningful. So it is a useful active skill, and it can get you out of a bind, and the fact that it is a board changer with unlock means it's never going to be a dead active skill at the end of a dungeon. You're going to have activation guaranteed, and there will be times where you might need to get rid of a bad board that is locked, so Sara does give you that flexibility. So she is definitely quite powerful, but you just need to be mindful of the fact that she brings the least amount of utility, I'd say, overall, just because she's so heavily skewed for offensive awakenings. But remember, the one you should be choosing is the one that's going to benefit your monster box the most, so it should be based on the leaders you have and whether or not you can slot them in the given team, and it will make a big difference. Remember, Sara is for Safi, Luna is for Seawolf, Rex is going to be for Natsuro/Royal Oak, and the red Rex can also work for Seawolf. So, with that being said, let me know what you think about these cards in the comments down below. Which one did you end up pursuing, and how do you plan to actually utilize them, and do you feel like it's going to be a big upgrade for your respective team? For myself personally, I don't own a Rex on my Mantastic'c account, so this is an incredibly easy choice. I'm going to pick up a Rex. With that being said, hopefully you'll have a truly fantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.